Today, I'll analyze the well-known gun camera footage showing a Messerschmitt Bf-110 attacking a B-17 Flying Fortress. I'll point out what you may have missed, what likely happened inside the B-17, and where this engagement probably took place. I'll go through the footage in detail at timestamp 2:12, right after the original sequence. If you have seen this footage before, feel free to skip ahead to the part where my commentary begins. I'll pause the video when needed, but keep the real-time timestamps on screen. I'll stay silent until this short part ends. Now, let's start the footage. Alright, let's take a closer look. From start to 3 seconds. Right at the beginning, the Bf-110 approached from 7 o'clock low. Both aircraft are already firing. A light trail of smoke can be seen from the B-17's bore turret guns. From 4 seconds to 6 seconds, the Bf-110 opens fire again. The bore turret gunner is firing again. A light trail of smoke can be seen from the guns. At 6 seconds, a brief reflection of sunlight flashes from the top turret. The engineer is turning it. At 8 seconds, the tail gunner is firing. Another enemy fighter seems to attack from 6 o'clock. From 10 to 16 seconds, continuous fire from the bore turret and tail gunner. Ahead, the main formation comes into view, and tail gunner is firing again at 13 seconds. From 17 to 20 seconds, snow-covered mountains below, and the tail gunner fires twice at 18 seconds and 21 seconds. From 26 to 28 seconds, hits visible on both wings. From 28 to 29 seconds, the top turret seems to engage another enemy fighter. At 32 seconds, a piece breaks off the B-17. From 35 to 36 seconds, more hits on the tail and lower fuselage. From 36 to 38 seconds, small explosions or puffs of smoke, flak, or more likely 21 cm rockets. German name Werfergranate 21. From 39 to 40 seconds, the tail gunner fires again. From 42 to 43 seconds, impacts near the tail gunner's compartment and vertical stabilizer. At 50 seconds, the bore turret guns are no longer visible. The chin turret remains fixed at 1 o'clock low. At 54 seconds, the bore turret turns slightly, guns partially visible again. At 55 seconds, hit on engine number 3. From 58 seconds to 1 minute, guns of the bore turret are pointing down. At about this time, the bore turret gunner likely tried to get out of his turret. A possible bailout order may have been given. From 1 minute to 1:03, hits under the fuselage, close to the bore turret. The bore turret gunner was likely hit at this moment. The tail gunner shows no further reaction. At 1:04, small fire behind engine number 2. At 1:09, more impacts on the right wing and stabilizer. At 1:12, more hits under the fuselage. At 1:13, notice the landing gear. Still no heavy smoke from the engines. From 1:15 to 1:18, hits in the propeller of engine number 2, then in the propeller of engine number 1, and the engine itself. At 1:19, engine number 1 starts smoking. From 1:20 to 1:21, the BF-110 closes in. More hits on engine number 2 and the left wing. Left waist gun inactive. Right gun moves briefly. The gunner may have let go. At 1:21, no visible damage near the tail gunner's window. The iron sight is pointing toward the 5 o'clock direction. The gunner is not visible. At 1:22, the main landing gear and tail wheel are clearly extending slowly, a signal that the crew is preparing to abandon the aircraft. From 1:22 to 1:24, the BF-110 starts to dive to avoid a collision. The B-17 maintains level flight. The gun camera footage ends here. Now, let's take a closer look at some details and the possible location of this encounter. This footage was part of a collection published in June 1944. The B-17 shows no visible markings on its tail. All 4 engines are still running, with no visible damage. Possible power loss due to mechanical issues. The non-Cheyenne tail turret and non-staggered waist gun positions identify this aircraft as an early to mid-production B-17G. I'll display the relevant production blocks on screen. Another clear feature is that this B-17 still has its camouflage paint. This detail changes the relevant production blocks. Another small but interesting detail are the walk lines on the wings. These lines were painted differently depending on the manufacturer. On Boeing and Vega aircraft, they are not continuous. While on Douglas-built aircraft, the lines are solid and uninterrupted. On this B-17, the lines are not continuous, which means it's not a Douglas-built aircraft. I could narrow down the number of possible aircraft even further, but that would go beyond the scope of this video. So, let's move on to the possible location of this encounter. The snow-covered mountains suggest this is over the Alps. There are not many places in Europe where this kind of terrain appears. The shadow falls on the right side of the aircraft, with an angle of about 25 to 35 degrees. The sun sits around 10 o'clock high. That means the B-17 was likely flying in the south to southwest direction, consistent with the return route over the Alps toward Italy. The attack likely happened in the morning, before 12 p.m., sometime between February and May 1944. While the exact location remains uncertain, the evidence strongly suggests this was a 15th Air Force B-17, attacked by a Messerschmitt Bf-110 of Zerstörergeschwader 1. Parts of this unit were stationed at Wels, Austria, about 190 kilometers east of Munich. If the crew bailed out shortly after this footage was taken, the B-17 probably crashed somewhere near the Alps. Because the main formation is still visible in the distance, there are likely eyewitness reports of this B-17 and her crew. Maybe one day I'll come across them by chance, and those accounts might match what we see here. One of many stories still waiting to be connected. What do you think? Did I miss something? Or am I wrong? Feel free to share your opinion. Maybe together we can find out the identity of this B-17 and her crew.